I am Sarah Permani. I was born in 1980 and I am employed. I teach and I have had a near-death experience. Several years ago in 2006, 1385 in the Iranian calendar, which of course this subject is still so vivid and vital for me, always alive in my mind. I've also shared this story with my students because it had such a profound effect on me. It has influenced and overshadowed my life, which is why I think hearing about it might be worthwhile. In 2006, 1385 in the Iranian calendar, I got married. And my marriage was such that I'm giving this introduction to get to the main point. In 2006, I got married. I got married even though I had absolutely no intention of getting married at that time. Back then, I really believed in this. I've always believed that the true and closest friend of every person is God. That is, especially at that age, for several years before that, I used to talk to God like a friend. I mean, the kind of God who, as if we were face to face, a God who with complete faith always sees me and hears me. I actually get answers from him, and I really had no intention of getting married, and I never let anyone come to our house for a marriage proposal. But there was one time when, as usual, we gave a negative answer. My professor called me and said, in fact, I didn't know that she was the intermediary for the introduction and acquaintance. She asked me to let this gentleman come to our house just once, to come to our home so that we could talk together. She said, his personality is very similar to yours. Let him come and you two can talk. And if you're not satisfied, well, he can leave. And out of respect for my professor, even told her, if I say no, you won't be upset. She said, no, not at all. She said, I have no problem. Just talk to this gentleman once. I'm just doing this as a favor. I had previously spoken to God like this, saying, God, whoever enters this house, because I was studying very hard, my whole goal was to study, to continue my education, and to reach the goal I had in mind. So that's why I put everything else aside and just spent all my time studying out of respect for my professor and because I didn't want to be impolite. And with the negative answer I had prepared for the gentleman who had been introduced, who is now my husband. He is now my husband. Praise be to God, Lord of the worlds. I allowed him to come to our house, and he came to our house. And now he got a positive answer, because I had already told God, I had said before, if someone comes through this door, God, I know that you have sent this person for me. I mean, I had complete trust in God. And how did I know God had sent him? Because I knew that whatever I asked, I would get an answer. He is my closest friend. He is my most intimate companion, God, who always hears me and answers me. That's why in whatever I told God, I had no doubt or hesitation, without exception, not a single doubt. I mean, in my breath, in my words and actions, I could completely feel God. I would say, yes, so you sent this, and then I would say, God, this person came, meaning they entered our home. So it was your will that they came, and in a very strange and unusual way, I went forward, really, without making any excuses. Even though I wanted to find an excuse, I couldn't. And there was absolutely no excuse to be found, and the only person who I saw was talking about faith, talking about God, but not just talking for the sake of it. Not just talking nonsense, but actually a believer, an honest person. Unlike the previous people, he didn't care about money. He never threw it in my face. At that moment, it occurred to me that this is the only person, the first person, whose first words weren't about money, and I wasn't after money either. This marriage happened in 2006. In 2007, when I became a master's student, actually, my husband was very supportive, really encouraged me to continue my studies, and has helped me a lot up to now. I'm still going to university. It's been almost 18 years that I've been teaching. And how much support you've given me, sir, both as a husband, as a friend, as a companion. And I truly thank God with all my heart. And I am grateful to the God who has always willed what is good for me and for all of his good and faithful servants. In the year 2007, a year that I remember clearly, even though I have always considered myself to be a healthy person, someone who has generally enjoyed good health and well-being throughout my life, I was an active person, very energetic, and really, I never had any problems. The worst illness I ever had up to that point was just a cold. I had absolutely no history of any kind of illness until one day I started feeling heart discomfort. And it was very severe. It felt like breathing was difficult, as if I couldn't breathe, and the pain was very intense, extremely intense. The pain bothered me so much that I told my spouse about it. And my spouse told me, well, we should definitely see a doctor and have you checked out. I said, no. I was a bit doctor averse anyway. I said, it's nothing, it'll come and go, it's just stress. And maybe that's why, but it was really bothering me a lot. Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. This pain stayed with me until it became the next week. I'll explain why Sunday turned into the next week and this pain continued. Sometimes it would calm down, sometimes it would get more intense. And so that they wouldn't take me to the doctor, I stopped mentioning it much until it got to the point where a week passed and we got up for morning prayers. And my husband, since I used to go to university on weekends, my husband and I both got up for prayers. And after the prayer, my husband would usually leave for work. I felt like I was suffocating. My heart, it hurt a lot. I knew my mother was awake at that time too, and she kept asking about how I was doing. And she was constantly insisting that I should be taken to the doctor. But my classes were heavy. I didn't have the time to go to the doctor. I thought if they keep taking me here and there, I'll fall behind in my studies and it'll be hard for me. But that day I really decided to go to the doctor because I was feeling such intense pain. It was suffocating. I kept saying I couldn't even get up anymore. After we finished our prayers, I told my husband that I was feeling really bad. He said, I'll go get a taxi and come back so we can go to the doctor together. At that moment, I didn't resist, of course. I told him, my mother and father are here. I'll go to the doctor with them. I sincerely promised him that I would go to the doctor. The sun hadn't yet risen when my husband set out for work. And as I was seeing him off at the door to go to work, in fact, as soon as I closed the door, and before that I had talked to my mother, I knew she was awake at that hour. I told my mother, oh, Mom, I'm really suffering. My heart hurts a lot. She told me, go, and we're here. In our city, in Olumiye, Badmeshk is very famous. And I say for Western Barrage is really good. She said, drink a glass of Badmeshk, then we'll come for you. So we can go to the doctor together. I said, let me rest a bit, then you can come for me. Because I couldn't resist anymore from all the pain I was in. After my husband left for work, I talked to my mother and my husband felt reassured that I was going to the doctor. After he left, I turned back toward our place and saw a man. We had a backyard, meaning our yard was behind the house and it was a big yard full of trees and it was dark too. It was just after dawn, around morning prayer time. I told my husband in a calm but slightly urgent voice, excuse me, let me go for a moment. Then, after saying that, I turned back to the room, taking a deep breath as I did so, and I saw, to my surprise, a man standing right there at the entrance to our yard, just outside, as if he had been waiting or watching us for some time. A man was standing there right in front of me, wearing a white shirt and white pants that looked clean and well kept. His hair was black, neatly styled, and he had a black beard that was carefully trimmed. The contrast between his dark hair and beard and his bright white clothing made him quite noticeable in the area. I approached him and began to speak, asking, what are you doing here? You seem to be waiting for something or someone. I was actually scared. I thought he was a thief, but he was standing there so calmly. So I said to him, what are you doing here? Why did you come to our house? I got even more scared, both frightened and repeatedly scolding him, asking, Mimon, where did you come from? Who gave you permission to come here? Because it was the backyard and our main entrance we didn't have any other entrance. So I asked, what are you doing here? In the presence of someone who's not family, aren't you ashamed? Get out of my house. And I kept talking and talking, but he wasn't paying any attention at all. And I was really angry. You see, when I say he wasn't paying attention, I mean that My words didn't matter to him at all. You know what I mean? It didn't make any difference to him what I was saying or what state I was in. And I kept telling him over and over, get out of my house. Who gave you permission to come in? Down there, I saw him sitting, putting his hand on his knee in a way that showed he was fed up with me. And then he turned and said, I came to take you with me. I said, where are you taking me? Who gave you permission to take me? Who's coming with you? He said, your time is up. You have to come with me now. And I got even angrier and said, how dare you say that? I'm not going anywhere with you, and get out of my house. And he said, your time is up. He said, I've come to take you. And his face had a completely neutral expression. I can't say he looked kind, nor can I say he looked unkind. It was just neutral. I can't say he was kind. I can't say he was unkind. It was just a neutral expression, as if my feelings didn't matter to him at all. It was like he didn't care about my emotions at all, as if someone was coming to arrest a person, like a soldier or an officer sent to take someone away. Or like when they send an officer and say, well, go and bring this person, like arrest him and bring him here. And no matter how much you beg or plead, it doesn't make any difference to him. That officer has that kind of attitude. So now I keep saying, I'll come with you. And he just looked at me like, who do you think you are? I mean, it's like, who are you that you wouldn't come? What kind of power do you have? So I talk, and sometimes he just looks at me. From his look, I can tell what he's saying, and sometimes he actually talks to me. He told me when I said I wouldn't come with him, he turned to me, and after listening a lot and saying little, he said, you see, you have to get ready to go. It's your time to leave with me. I said, I'm not coming. I realized this was really serious. He said, I'm not coming. And then, I've been after you since Sunday. He told me, I've been after you since last Sunday up until now, since Sunday. He even mentioned the 7th day by name. He said, I've been after you since last Sunday until now. Now your time is up. Come, you have to come with me. Go, and don't make me more frustrated. And he didn't pay any attention. I noticed that while I was standing and talking to him, I was actually lying down. In the middle of it, my head was facing the sky, and I was lying down, looking up at the ceiling. I realized, seriously, I'm dying. And I saw quite clearly that there was absolutely nothing funny or amusing about it at all. In fact, I realized I was truly dying. It had come inevitably to take my life away from me. Well, at that particular time, I had become extremely attached and deeply connected to my wife, whom I loved very much. And before I met my wife, before she entered my life and changed it so profoundly, my family knew that I was very eager for death because I saw death as a connection to God. They even warned me a few times. For example, people around me would say that sometimes I was drowning in this side of things. I didn't get caught up in those issues, the books I used to read, the ones I would go after and what they would talk about. So I didn't really get involved with these things in my youth, but actually I was eager for death because I knew that death was the point that would bring me to God. It would remove an obstacle from my path, and I would reach God despite all the affection I had for my family. But my wife, it's as if she anchored me to life, connected me to this world. For a moment, I saw God. I saw that it was coming, ready to take my life. And in a state where I didn't want to surrender, I couldn't do anything. Look, I experienced the utter helplessness of someone on their deathbed. I understood with all my being that I am a completely helpless person. I realized that this entity that had come to take my life had no feelings toward me. It was just carrying out its duty and purpose. Now I wanted to fall at its feet, to beg, to cry, and for a moment, again, God came to my mind. I said, and with my hands, while thinking that nothing, I had no control, I slowly and deliberately raised both my hands completely upward. God, the same God who always listened carefully to my words, the same God who always answered me, the same God whom I had complete trust in. I turned to him and said, oh, God, you see, because that feeling comes over me. I always said, God, didn't I ask you? My husband's name is Muhammad. Didn't I ask you to bring Muhammad into my life? Didn't I ask you for Muhammad? You brought Muhammad into my life. You made it so that I live with Muhammad. You made me be with Muhammad, and my heart is full and overflowing with love for Muhammad. My heart belongs to Muhammad, and God in utter helplessness, in complete powerlessness. But right now I'm talking to the same God I've always spoken to. I said, God, I never asked you for Muhammad, but you gave me Muhammad. And as much as I can, I raise my hands up high. God, now that. And I also said it like this. I said, oh my God, if I die, what will Muhammad do? What will he do with the sorrow of losing me, God? What will my mother do? My mother, we had just realized that she had actually developed diabetes. It was only then that we found out. I said, what will my mother do? What will my father do? What will they do if I die? I mentioned my sister's name. I mentioned my brother's name. I said, what will they do with the sorrow of not having me? I said this once or twice, but I kept coming back to it. I said, God, what will Muhammad do? What will he do if he sees that I have died? God, don't let us. You brought us together. Give us a chance to live. That man, the angel of death, the agent who had come from God, who had come from the angel of death, because the angel of death is an angel who also has agents of his own who go to take souls. Some souls are taken by the kind God himself. Some souls are taken by the angel of death himself, and some souls are taken by the agents of the angel of death. And he told me firmly that you will come. And I told him, you see, he won't come. And he told me, you'll see, he will come. Time is up. He was already up on his feet. He was up already prepared for us to go together. And I glanced out at the quiet yard. And I said, oh God, you are the one who truly brought all of us together. So please give us a chance to live. You are the one who united us. You are the one who placed our love in each other's hearts. Please give me the chance to truly live with her. Look, my hands were raised up toward the sky, and I was in the most utterly helpless state. Unconsciously, I came down, and it was as if a hand, not my own, had been placed on my heart. So much so that I became calm from all that, and so much so that, how can I say it? A peace as if, my God, I received this answer, that it's okay. I mean, in my heart, I got this answer, that it's okay. Go ahead and live. And for a moment, I turned and saw, meaning I became calm from all that anxiety, worry, and uneasiness and restlessness. In an instant, my whole being was filled with a deep peace. I turned and saw that this gentleman briefly glanced at me, making eye contact for a moment, and then walked out toward the yard. And my heart received this, it's okay, live your life. If you could see my state, it was as if I had received a heartfelt, deep answer, and I understood it, and my whole being became peaceful and calm. And this gentleman left, and it took me almost a few hours to come back to myself. It was almost as if I had truly entered another world. You see, maybe now, as I am saying it and you are hearing it, it might sound easy, but I genuinely lived through that particular moment of agony. I saw that agent who had come to take my life. I had a conversation with him. We even have this in the Quran, because I went very far indeed. I knew that, yes, I truly lived through that state, but I asked several people, some Quranic scholars who were in Qom, who were in Mashhad, Quranic scholars. I searched for them, found them, and spoke to them over the phone. I asked them, and they said that this argument you have with the angel of death is actually mentioned in the Quran. When they come to take the soul, it's always like this. The one who is about to give up their soul is usually constantly arguing and talking, saying, I won't give up this soul. I won't do this. I won't let go. and they're in a state of dispute in conversation, and they don't want to give up their soul, except for people who are very faithful and very, in fact, those who are always truly surrendered to God. But here you came, and if I'm not mistaken, there's a verse in the Quran, that part where it says, Kal Rabbi Raji'un, if I'm not mistaken, where everyone asks God, oh God, return me, bring me back to life, give me another chance to. He said without exception, everyone asks God for this chance, and they ask for it at the moment of death. But it's not like everyone gets to return to life. I mean, you've seen the angel of death and said goodbye. The angel of death goes on his way, and you come back to life again. This is a very rare occurrence, and that death was supposed to be your certain death. I myself knew I was living. I experienced that very moment. I actually lived through that very specific moment of dying, experiencing it firsthand. It was a very intense, profound, and unforgettable experience for me. And they told me, you know, what really, truly, and deeply affected me was that God answered my prayer, which was something I had been hoping and longing for with all my heart for quite a while. That is something truly valuable and deeply meaningful to me, something I cherish and hold close. And for me, what became even more significant was that even in the state of dying, I sincerely, wholeheartedly asked God. I don't know. I pleaded with God with all my strength and emotion, that God, with all my heart, a heart that was gently calmed by God, a heart that received peace from God and said yes, and a being that became tranquil. But I stayed in that peaceful state for hours. I mean, look, for several hours, maybe I wasn't even myself. I mean, I forgot who I was, what I was. The atmosphere was so intense. And there was a heaviness, and the feeling of heaviness was so intense. That moment I lived through was so overwhelming for me. It was so heavy, the angel of death left. And as I sat there, it took hours for me to come to my senses. I would even forget my own home. I would look this way, look that way. You see, it was such an oppressively heavy atmosphere, truly so overwhelming that I didn't even know who I was or what I was. I kept replaying it in my mind as if I couldn't come back from that world. It was so very heavy for me. It took several long hours before I finally came back to myself. And then suddenly I saw everything again. Yes, I am truly me. I am here. I am alive. I am in my own home. And from that day, from that very moment, the old sadness left and was gone. It was gone for good. I was talking to one of the great Quranic scholars, and he told me that in your life, you should never lift your head from prostration, meaning remember to bow your head in prostration toward God and give thanks for the new life he has given you, for the second chance he has granted you, because everyone experiences these moments in life, but not everyone. It's not like everyone comes back to life. Not everyone sees the angel of death and then returns to life. This is something that might be impossible or exceptionally rare, but God gave you this life, this gift once again. You really have to be truly grateful to God. And whenever you remember, prostrate in gratitude before God. And from that time, from the year 2007, when this happened until now, I'm here with my wife and my daughter, who is now 15 years old. And I truly feel that I can never thank God enough. Every time I remember, whenever I look at my daughter, I give thanks. And when I look at my wife, I give thanks as well. I see God much more vividly, much more clearly than ever before, much more of a friend, much more loving and much more lovable